to witness a ceremonial event, but to honor a profound and sacred responsibility to bring back home the remains of our brave men and women who sacrificed everything for the liberation of our beloved country.
42 coffins draped in the South African flag containing the mortal remains of the likes of legal giant, advocate Duma Nokwe, and journalist Todd Machigeza. To name a few, were laid before dignitaries and loved ones as the nation paid its respects to freedom fighters who died in exile decades ago in Zimbabwe and Zambia. This in a homecoming ceremony at the historic Freedom Park Heritage Site in Pretoria, under the theme celebrating the lives of our heroes and heroines who laid down their lives for our freedom. With the success of this repatriation, a key role player in this project, the MPA's Missing Person Task Team, has its eyes on repatriating more, even as far as the challenging Angola site, which is home to mass graves.
It won't be an easy task, but we will use demining experts where necessary. We have personnel on our team who are the world experts in working on mass graves. One of our colleagues from Argentina, who's part of our team, worked on recovering the remains of all the mass graves in Yugoslavia and the disappeared in Argentina. So we really have, I think, the best available skills on our team.
The MPA's Missing Persons Task Team, however, is realistic in its ambitions, noting that there is no conflict or war where the body of every single soldier can be recovered, prompting the team to present an alternative to families where they are unable to recover remains.
For families where we are not able to recover remains, we will develop symbolic reburial processes. We will take families to the sites in a way we are able to honor and recognize their contribution and their loss as well.
The celebration of freedom fighters who led South Africa on its path to democracy continues. Kani Mapan.
While the Commission revealed many hidden truths, not all cases were resolved. Bodies were never found, records were missing, and families were left with information but not closure. During my research for this podcast, I came across a detailed document that made me stop and reflect. It reminded me that while history taught us about prominent leaders, it did not teach us enough about the people who are unknown, those who disappeared quietly without answers. If I had more time tonight, I would read out every single name, because every name deserves to be honored. Perhaps there will be a part 2, or even a separate episode dedicated to only reading the names, because there's just so many of them. Now, let's get into business. Between 1960 and the early 1990s, thousands of South Africans went into exile. Most joined the ANC, others the PAC, movements like the Black Consciousness Movement. Not all were accounted for. 55 people remained missing after going into exile. For security reasons, many never told their families they were leaving. Families were left with only a date and silence. One such case is Luyanda Eric Mose's case. On the 31st of October 1983, the 17-year-old COSA's member left his home to buy bread and a newspaper and never returned. Years later, a letter from Lusaka claimed that he had been seen in Angola. In 1990, Luyanda phoned home, confirming he was an MK operative and was being sent to London to study. That was the last time his family ever heard his voice. Some exile cases suggest death in combat. Others remain unresolved because families receive conflicting or incomplete information. So, until the truth is certain, they still remain missing. In some exile cases, information suggests that the person is deceased. Where families accept this, the case is no longer classified as a disappearance. But where information is disputed, where stories change, families remain trapped in uncertainty. One such case is Kolani Martin Jebe, recruited in the MK and later reported killed in combat. His family received conflicting versions for years, leading to suspicion, doubts, and deep emotional distress. These cases show how conflicting information destabilizes families, leaving them vulnerable, suspicious, and unable to heal. Sometimes all families need is clarity, sometimes reassurance, sometimes just the truth. What makes these stories so heartbreaking is that many families will never find peace without their remains, without proof. Until then, hope and grief coexist painfully. There is still so much more to unpack. How are remains identified? What happens to those buried as unknown? How do families begin the process of searching even today? There is a lot more to be told. So tell me, should we do a part 2 and go deeper? Let me know in the comments. Efforts to find those who disappeared during the apartheid era are ongoing, primarily led by South Africa's Missing Persons Task Team, with recent initiatives focusing on the remains of anti-apartheid activists who died in exile. Key updates and initiatives. Okay, that's the Missing Persons Task Team, established in 2005. It adds here, the MPTT has uncovered the remains of more than 145 missing persons as of recent dates. In late 2024, the remains of approximately 50 freedom fighters were returned to South Africa from Zimbabwe and Zambia. I think that relates to the video that I showed you at the beginning. Phase 2 of this initiative was launched in September in 2024. Involves joint delegations traveling to Angola, Lesotho, Zambia, and Zimbabwe to conduct grave mapping and research. Angola is particularly challenging due to unmarked graves in former conflict zones, requiring demining experts. Families of liberation heroes who died in exile are being urged to come forward with information via online forms to assist with the process. Inquests into specific high-profile disappearance cases have been reopened. In November 2024, for example, the inquest into the death of activist Boyki Tlapi was formally reopened, naming 3 former apartheid police officers as persons of interest. There are also ongoing legal actions by survivors and families of victims seeking justice and constitutional damages from the government. If you want to be involved or you seek information, please contact the Missing Persons Task Team, MPTT, who works alongside these families. The MPTT is headed by Madeleine Foulard and can be contacted via the National Prosecuting Authority, NPA. The government has put out a call for former exile comrades and families to provide information, name, photos, dates, locations, to assist with the process. As we close tonight's session, I'd like us to take a moment of silence to honor the names mentioned in the source documents. The names will still appear as I continue because you guys, I'm sure you've seen them, some of them, right now. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to follow and subscribe. Instagram and TikTok, Pinky_Smallest. YouTube, The Voice of the Missing, Vanished and Disappeared. WhatsApp 076 639 7869. They mattered. They still mattered. Thank you.